Hi. I'm going to talk a little bit about this aspect of the INFP type. One that I think doesn't get very much play, at least as far as I know. I've never seen anything on this particular topic before, and it doesn't mean it's not there, but I think there's some good reasons, though, why it would be a less addressed topic. One of them would be that INFPs are known to be, as a type, theoretically, the most idealistic of all the types. And if you check out this terrific MBTI nerd vlogger, Joshua L., he's got a really interesting video. He's got a lot of interesting theorizing going on his channel, and I really recommend it in general. But he has one video on NFs and meaning, where he talks about all kinds of things related to NF consciousness. He's an INTP who's interested in that and many, many other topics, and many topics beyond the MBTI. But the MBTI is definitely a theme in the videos on his channel, many of them. Anyway, he talks about the existentialist burden of the NFs and their prodigious making of meaning as a way of life. On the consciousness level. And I would say that INFPs would have the heaviest existential burden, I think. And I talk about that in other videos on INFP that I've already done. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so with that kind of idealism, I think that there would be more INFPs who would be more likely, would be very, very, very unlikely versus members of a lot of other types to, the least likely to feel anything but ugh about the idea of tooting their own horns, getting up and talking about how fantastic they are. I think a lot of them, the idealism of a lot of them would get in the way of them being able to even imagine that. And I think a lot of them would find it quite, a lot of the ones I know for sure anyway, and I know quite a few, would find that distasteful. And just furthermore, they're extremely private, as a lot of introverts are, so they wouldn't want to talk about themselves in that way, I don't think, usually. And then also, and additionally too, many of them might also anticipate that a lot of people might make fun of them for doing something like that. Because INFP is it's a very easy type for a lot of people who don't get it. It's a very easy type to make fun of for the very unusual things that many of those people of that type are up to, and their unusual perspectives, and their complete and total willingness to be out of step with the group, whatever group they happen to be a part of. They can step outside of the stream of what else is going on around them, because for them the most important thing to live up to are the ideals that they've determined are worth striving for, and that's what they need to obey. So the ideals in a dominant introverted feeling types reckoning system, what they're going to be most obsessed with are matters of value as pertains to aesthetics, morality, and truth in the sense of the sense of fidelity to ideals, which leads to this topic. One of the really interesting tensions within the INFP type that I think is fascinating is the one between this very, very tender-hearted, very soft, very intensely feeling, very, very sensitive interior emotionally that INFPs have. And the tension between that and what can be fragility in them, with the flip side being the source of their greatest strength, and the way in which they really are, again, they're really badass. They're really badass because they're not unlike INTPs are with their independent logical thinking. They're very thoroughgoing, systematic. I'm going to figure this out myself. introverted thinking drive that they have with that in their the dominant slot of their cognitive function stacks, with introverted feeling in the dominant position with INFP, plus the big imagination and literally a big picture view on the outside world to consider all kinds of dilemmas and things out there that the auxiliary NE function in that type, extroverted intuition, confers. There's a lot for them to reckon, and that's what they spend a lot of their days doing quietly. They're weighing everything up all the time in terms of their value systems. And what can make them really badass when they are, is this independence from the group that they can enact, and that they won't enact without any reason. I mean, once they're mature, they'll rebel just like all people will as they sort of go through their individuation process and as they grow up and mature. But even the adults really will keep their own counsel to a much greater extent than most people of most other types will, as to what's important and what they like. And they will really be unapologetic about doing things their way. And basically, it's like if there's something that they don't value, if there's a social structure or custom or popular anything kind of phenomenon that they're, quote, supposed to like, or that they're being strongly pressured by a social group to endorse, if they don't agree that it is something to be exalted, then they will not recognize it. They will refuse to do so, and they will go their own way about those things. And that kind of independence is quite a thing. It could be quite a thing in that kind of resistance. Very much dependent on context. Anyway, linked below is this little excerpt from, again, a talk show, a very famous INFP in there. It's Johnny Depp, and he's on the Letterman show, the old Letterman show. And it's a clip that I've loved for years too, again, because it so struck me when it aired. I too thought it was, as Letterman does, I thought it was so funny. And this is a fantastic little exemplar of what I'm talking about, this independence and determination of one, what one values, that's very independent from the group. So that'll be down there. I also noticed too, when looking at the interview compilation reel for Elliott Smith, who I talked about a bit I made reference to this and linked in the description box of the video called Fastest Armchair Typing Ever video. And I was reviewing that again, and you see lots of examples in there too of this badassery, and again, this fragility and this badassery in many parts of the different interviews with him in there, if you want to go look at something else about that. It's very interesting because and Smith is, what an extreme character. What an extreme sort of example of this kind of thing, because he was so very hurt, that man, by a lot of things formatively, and and you can just see he's would seem so fragile, and you can tell that he just, during most of those interviews, he just would rather be anywhere else than in the public eye and answering these questions that he's being asked. And he's kind of like looking around, like he looks vulnerable as hell. Like it's almost painful for me to watch him. And especially as, knowing how his story ends and all the kinds of demons he was battling and all that. But what's interesting, though, is to notice when he's answering these interview questions, and this is a very INFP thing, all of my INFPs would do this, that I know of, is even though he's obviously so nervous and so uncomfortable, and et cetera, in these interview situations, when he's asked a question about something he cares about, music, he's asked it, he gives a lot of very intelligent and very thought out answers to the questions. And you'll notice that he doesn't do anything expedient that would perhaps make himself more comfortable and just make the interview go faster. He will sit through the discomfort of it because it's so important to him to honor, I believe this would have been the case, to honor music, to honor the subject, and to address it properly, that he takes the time, even if he's sort of faltering with his words and his pacing is really slow in the answers, he's going to make sure he says as closely as possible as he can exactly what he needs about the subject. And he's not in a rush about it. And he also, and you notice that all kinds of other INFP performers, there's just no end of them in pop music. Another thing they'll do too is that for all of their, seeming fragility and also real fragility, in some ways emotionally, just for being so very, very emotionally sensitive and very, very, very idealistic and usually very bright as well. It's quite a combo and very imaginative. You put that all together, you've got a lot of things to manage inside yourself. He won't hesitate, and most INFPs I know wouldn't either. Won't hesitate to correct someone either. They will say no, that's not what I meant, and they'll make sure to get across what they meant precisely, because being authentic is so important for them, and because if it's a topic they care about at all, they care about it very, very deeply. What they're passionate about, what they care about at all, they're going to be very, very passionate about. And you can see that come up and be expressed in these interviews when, for example, Elliott Smith is talking about music and, different definitions and different ideas of what different kinds of music are and what the meanings of his music are and so on. He gives those things careful consideration, and he takes the time that is needed to express himself fully about those, within the constraints of an interview situation. That's very INFP-typical in my experience. They'll do that. So, I'll end it there. And I hope you enjoy the clip. I think it's pretty terrific and very funny. Oh, another thing that's in that clip, I just remember that I also find to be very a wonderful example is you see Johnny Depp, INFP, or presumed to be INFP. I don't know if he is or not. But certainly seems to me like that would be the type that he would probably identify with if he were to do the MBTI. You see him be really quite stony-faced through a lot of the interview and seem very serious. But then you see at the end, you'll see what happens at the end, but you see, near the end of the clip, Letterman himself says some things that Depp finds really funny. And you see the most beautiful, you see him really laughing. And you also see him, Johnny Depp, also just the sweetness of the smile that comes up on his face is just, it really is like when the sun comes through the clouds, It's really something beautiful when you see that heavy duty FI warmth that is in there, really come out and get expressed like that. It's really something special. So anyway, I hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.